Hello, I'm Emily Norcross, and welcome to Up Crossers Creek. Together, we will navigate the often quite interesting world of the indigo child and adult. This show is produced by the wonderful Colleen Kelly for Haggy Shack Radio and relayed on Wolf Spirit Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am super excited that this is my absolute first show. There are actually tears in my eyes. Can't make fun of me. This is a big thing. So today is May 28th, 2016, and the wonderful Colleen Kelly is the producer for this show, and I would just like to start off with the advertisement. This is a listener-supported radio. Colleen produces for Haggy Shack and Wolf Spirit Radio, and they both have donate buttons on the side of the page. If you donate, that would be wonderful. If not, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All the donations are used for the running of both shows. Quick side note as well, we have the archives, which are available for a week at no cost, and there is a show that you would like to listen to that is older. Archives cost $5, and you won't be set up for automatic subscription. You'll get a message in the email to confirm whether or not you want to continue. If you have any questions and you're in the chat, please make sure that they're all in capitals so that we can try to see what is going on for each one. So, as you know, my name is Emily Norcross, and this is Up Crossers Creek. I am a self-described indigo child. So, what does indigo child necessarily mean? I know they kind of touched base with it a little bit this morning. The term comes from, it's kind of aura-based, but not necessarily aura-based. We're a very different breed. We handle things in a complete different way than most people will. The term indigo may have come from the color for the sixth chakra, the third eye. The theories of indigos are largely governed by a third eye chakra, which means or explains several of their traits. Personally, I tend to think indigo has no special significance for us. It's just a name. So we're gifted on so many levels, and I don't even know where these gifts come from, how they get into a certain person. A lot of us indigos are made as an ADD child, ADHD, ODD, which Nancy said on Dolly's show, actually, a couple hours ago, that she was ODD as well. Well, ODD, for those of you who don't know, is oppositional defiance disorder. Fortunate for us, I believe anybody who's oppositional defiant is actually an indigo child or adult. Indigo child adult is pretty much the same thing. It's just kind of discussing age groups. But again, anybody who identifies with ADD, ADHD, or ODD that have the specific traits that I speak to in the next hour, you'll kind of see why we go through it. Something interesting is that we tend to be pretty old souls. So if any of you heard the show that I did with Dolly last week, one of my girlfriends has done past life regression with me. And we have figured out that I've been here for quite a number of lives. I think we're up to 11 right now, which is absolutely insane in on itself. So we're old souls, and we're kind of defined by the journeys that we have taken in each of those lives. I do not, unfortunately, know of any of my lives. If I have other lives outside of planet Earth, but I do know that there has been 11 here. So, some of the traits that I kind of want to go over tonight, so that you can kind of get an idea of what an indigo child is. I know Annette was kind of confused earlier. and then to give you stories to kind of back up why I believe, and I call myself a self-proclaimed indigo child. So, growing up, I was never really part of the in crowd. Never really knew anybody who wanted to hang out with me from the in crowd. I always felt like I was very different from them, almost like I was alien. And alien necessarily isn't a bad word when you're a child. But when you are the child and you're in the social situation, it is not a good word. You want to be so a part of everything everyone's doing, going rollerblading or going to the mall with all the other girls and going shopping. And that stuff just kind of bored. It just made me bored. I didn't get interested in anything that was going on. I had somebody ask me who is working for me what necessarily an indigo child is, and it was hard to explain to her without having her think that I was crazy. But then I had to sit back and relax and say to myself, I'm not crazy. Nothing is crazy about being an indigo adult. Everybody has their own individual quirks. Everyone has their own individual personalities. And for a lot of indigo children and adults, we identify together. We're a very large group. So, looking back and thinking that I was alien, now I look back and think, no, I wasn't. I was actually kind of ahead of the game. Getting obsessed over bands and things like that just wasn't really me. I never really picked an obsession, well, other than horses, that truly made me like everybody else. Another trait of being an indigo child is being a loner. I have a very few select friends. Very, very few select friends. Anybody who I call my friend and I see on a regular basis and I hang out with and whatever the case is with them, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but consider yourself lucky because I see a lot of things in people. I'm a very good indicator, which is another trait of an indigo child, a very good indicator of what you are going to bring to my life. And if it does not breathe positivity, healthy, happy, anything that's going to make my life better relationship, I want nothing to do with it. I was really good at hiring people when I was in the corporate world. It was difficult because my managers above me would say that I was being too picky. I don't think it was being too picky. I think it was I was going to see the work ethic that they brought to me at the table, at the interview table. And if it wasn't something that I liked, I didn't want to hire them, regardless of what other managers had told me. So, I digress. Back to being a loner. It's hard to say that as a child I knew I was a loner, but I just naturally stepped away from the crews. Everybody who was hanging out in high school and whatnot, I just kind of hung back. I was like, yeah, this is not interesting for me. I actually attended my high school reunion back in November. And I was so excited to go. I was like, I'm an adult. It's going to be different. Everyone's going to be great. We're all going to talk and catch up. I absolutely hated my reunion. Absolutely, positively hated my reunion. Because again, everybody was still stuck on the old self. And I was at the point where I was moving forward, and I was very much interested in moving forward with my life. Not talking about, oh, do you remember what Tommy said to Billy, and Betty got upset over this? Not really interested in anything like that. And it just proved to me again that I've always been a loner. I don't like crowds. I get social anxiety to the max around crowds. My mom and I actually joke on a very regular basis. Whenever I have to go to the supermarket, if I walk out of there and I'm not either in handcuffs or need bail money, it's been a good shopping trip. So, it's hard to identify with people even as an adult, because it was hard coming to my friends and family and telling them about the show and saying, hey, I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing my own radio show now. It's going to be fantastic. I'm so happy. And telling them that, well, it kind of switched from a different topic, and now I'm working with going over the Indigo child and what it's like to interact with an Indigo child. But once I got over it and I told everybody that this is what the show is for, it became very revealing, because it's hard to reveal to somebody that's not necessarily in this world that you do not identify ADD, ADHD, ODD, anything like that. Because that's what they know. They know ADD, they know ADHD. They don't know Indigo child or Indigo adult. And to tell them that, a lot of people who have been diagnosed with these disorders truly are Indigo children and adults. I can't help but to thank my mom for a lot of the things that have happened in my life, because at a young age, she knew. She told me, and I didn't want to believe her because this was crazy to me back then. And when I got to an adult, I was like, wow, this is pretty real. This is something that I'm going to have to start taking over. And I'm going to have to start owning it. I still have some anger issues, which is another big point of being Indigo. We are very powerful. And for some reason, we have the highest self-esteem, but the lowest self-esteem. And it's hard because if something doesn't happen 100% the way it's supposed to and it's been planned to, we literally fly off the handle. And it's something that we try to work on, absolutely myself. I try to work on it. I try to get it going. I try to not get so angry over things that I literally cannot control. The old saying, don't cry over spilled milk. Guess what? I cry over spilled milk. I don't know what to tell you. It's who I am. It's who I will be. Either you guys are going to accept it or you're not. So on a very regular basis, I have to keep my anger in check. And there is plenty of times that I can't. It's just, I get overworked, overstressed, all of that kind of stuff. And my anger comes out. And it's not because I'm angry with a certain person. I'm frustrated because I'm, one, trying to keep myself back from getting angry. And two, I'm at wit's end with everything else. So it's just going to topple over and have an issue. So I constantly have to remind myself when I'm in certain situations to relax, calm down. Doesn't necessarily work. My husband learned a long time ago, do not tell me to calm down in a fight. It does not work for him by any means. He's actually sitting on the edge right next to me right now, going over everything. Listening and hold on one moment. I need you out of the room because they're picking on. Sorry about that. So he's a complete skeptic. 100% skeptic. He does not believe in any of this stuff. He thinks I'm crazy every time I say I'm an Indigo child, or, I deal with Annabelle at the farm, or I've seen somebody, or Grammy's come to me in a dream, something like that. It was good to see him kind of starting to accept everything and understand that there is truly another world to what he knows as reality. A couple years ago, we went to a psychic, and he is a complete skeptic by every meaning of the word, as I said before. And the psychic said to him, listen, she's like, I'm going to make a believer out of you. Unfortunately, she didn't. She tried, and it didn't necessarily work. But everything that the psychic had said with me was 120% spot on. So it's just a matter of getting him to understand and getting him to kind of accept that there's different dimensions and different realities and all this kind of stuff. And I do believe he's an indigo child as well. Whatever that's worth, I'm not... He's so very much like me that it's hard to not accept it. So, I've got the whole anger thing under control for what I think I do. And I mentioned earlier that I have really high self-esteem and very low self-esteem at the same time. So, what do I mean by high self-esteem? Well, I think I'm better than everybody else. Sorry to say it, guys, but, in reality, I go into certain situations and I judge. I absolutely judge. I know it's something you're not supposed to do and you're supposed to accept everybody. No, that is not me. I don't accept people at face value. You want respect, you earn the respect. So, just to give you an idea, I was a kid. This picture was taken. I was maybe 2-3 years old. We were at a local air show that my dad took me to. And I have a very emotional face. You could read everything that comes on it. So I was maybe 2 or 3 holding my brother's hand in this picture. And my head is turned to the left and I am staring somebody down. I mean, mean mugging, like nobody's just staring them down as if they just murdered my dog in front of me. I don't know what the heck I was looking at. I have no idea. But I have been literally judging people since 1986. So, I feel like in all situations that my knowledge, my experience, my professionalism, everything that I have makes me a better candidate than a lot of people I know who are around my age. A couple weeks ago, I was in a local shopping center, and somebody said that the 20 and 30-year-olds of this country are destroying it. Well, I'm not necessarily one to keep my mouth shut in case none of you don't know me, but I went off on the guy. And I said, you really have no idea what kind of work ethic I have. I'm 30 years old. And every day I go to work, I work 6 days a week, I work on a horse farm, I'm constantly busting my butt every single day. As of right now, I have 3 jobs. And you're sitting here and saying that the 20 and 30-year-olds of this country are going to destroy it. Unfortunately, I was raised with manners, unlike your child. Because generations after me, everybody's raised by daycares. People aren't really teaching their kids manners. They're more or less just going about their business and that's it. So materialistic things are kind of kept away from indigos. We don't necessarily gravitate towards those kinds of things, which is nice because, again, along with the self-esteem, if we had everything in the world, people would kind of find us a little unfair. So I think we kind of balance it out and not be materialistic, which is also a fantastic trait of ours. The other side of it is low self-esteem. And there's times where depression is a huge thing in indigos. I could be Monday, top of the rail, I'm everything, I'm better. Wednesday, I am in such a slump that getting out of bed is difficult. And it's sad because we have such talents and we have such personality that to let all of that get to us and bring us down is difficult. So we don't necessarily deal well with authority either, which is where the oppositional defiance comes in. We don't like seeing authority. It's an illusion to us.
Now, it's not that we don't respect them, but in the corporate setting, when I was working a 9-to-5 job and sitting behind a desk, and my manager said something to do it, and it just didn't make sense to me, and I wanted an explanation, I would get the comment, well, I told you to do it, so just do it. Not really. Not really at all, actually. It's something that indigos need to have an explanation for. And it's not that we're trying to be disrespectful. We just like to know why we're being asked of certain things if it doesn't make immediate sense to us. We don't necessarily think we're above anybody in the hierarchy of authority or below anybody, but we do definitely think that we're equals. If we feel micromanaged, if we feel imposed, if something happens, we tend to get pretty rebellious. When I was 18 years old, the big rebellious thing I did when I turned 18 is I got my cartilage on my left ear pierced. That was like the biggest thing that I could do, because what were they going to, my parents say? No. It was already done. I was 18. But I also didn't have my parents micromanaging me, which I think was difficult for them, but very easy for me. Because it was, looking back, it was a very difficult situation as a child. It was almost a hostage situation every turn of the road. And how my parents didn't kill me at any point during the 20 years I lived in their house is remarkable. Because there were times that I was just a straight up indigo child. I was better than everybody else. Nobody could tell me differently. Nobody could do anything better than me. So it was probably a very stressful point for my parents. And I remember my parents sitting me down and saying, you know, this is society. You kind of have to do it this way. And I was just like, well, no. I mean, I don't have to, because I'm my own boss, and that's what it's going to be. It's to fit into the corporate world and to fit into everything. It's almost like being a zombie for an indigo child. It's hard to say that, oh yeah, I'm going to be employee of the month for 12 months straight. And then somebody who is less deserving, and you know they're less deserving, gets it. It's frustrating. It's something that you can't understand, and it kind of turns you so jaded that it becomes a zombie situation. And this is where I'm going to kind of bring in that indigos have to go with their talents. Whatever your talent is, you should really go and do what you need to do to make your life happy. For so many years, I decided I was going to go work for a paycheck every Friday. I was going to go and do the office thing and doing all that kind of stuff, and I absolutely hated it. And it wasn't until January, when I started working on the horse farm, is when my life turned drastically different. The pressures of the present and the future melted away. I started working with my horses every single day. I started becoming a better, happier, more intelligent person, because the knowledge that I personally craved was all in that farm. It was probably the best decision I've ever made, is going to work at a horse farm. One thing that I've always known in my life is I see through lies. I see way past them. And when somebody lies to me, much like other indigos, it does not allow us to trust you. And trust for us is huge. There was a situation a couple weeks ago where somebody had lied to me about what they said to a family member.
And I lost it because, again, this was the 400th time that somebody had lied to me. And I called them out on it, and nothing but a lie came out. And at that point, I decided to end the relationship. And with other indigos, it leaves them in a place where they ask the question, why? Why do you feel lying to me is something that needs to be done? Why do you feel that I can't take the truth, which is a respect thing for us? Again, if you earn the respect, you get the respect. And once you lie, that respect is taken away. I think one thing that is tough as an indigo is allowing people to lie and not calling them out on it in certain situations. And it's a powerful instinct that we have. It's something that we can't put down, and we can't say, oh, well, this is going to be, this is going to be better. They're not going to do it, but we can't dismiss it. It's an idea for us. It's an ideal for us. We need to make sure that people are accepting the truth and accepting what they need to do. Because if you lie, you just don't have like this way to, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's so depressing for us, and it gets us so angry, and we feed off of it. And it's something that we just don't let go because we feel like we have truly, truly been hurt. So it's hard. It's difficult as an indigo. It's also rewarding. It's very rewarding because we know who we are. We accept everything that we do as being real, as being amazing. And I don't know how we just pick that up. How we just block everything away and just say, no, I'm really doing right by me. Like, I'm doing well. I'm really excited about this. This is super. When so many things tend to go wrong. With our anger issues, our self-esteem problems, it's just always being put back up on the horse is fantastic. And finding normal jobs to be draining and stressful and zombie-like, that's a structure we break down. How do I say this? We're very authentic. We are very easily to get along with, but because of how authentic we are, people don't tend to stay around too long. And it lends itself to the breaking down structures and not doing the 9-to-5 jobs and things like that, because I think what 9-to-5 jobs, or as in my opinion and my experience, is 9-to-5 jobs want you to be this cookie cutter Jane or John who comes in a uniform, punches in at 8 o'clock, leaves at 5 o'clock, has a lunch for a half hour, doesn't say a word, doesn't do anything, is just mindless. I'm not mindless. I mean, that's never been something that somebody has ever said to me, because I take all kinds of information. Now, I've done a ton of research to bring to you guys today what indigo is besides what I think it is. And I've gone through several different forums, several different posts, YouTube videos. A lot of them I posted on the forum page down in, I think Wolf Spirit and Haggy Shack have the forum link. So I posted all of my links, and I got a lot of the information. One of them was Wikipedia, which I am distasted for Wikipedia. I mean, I cannot handle Wikipedia. They're terrible. Excuse me. I just think that not okay to edit information, especially something that could be used for research, because then you're creating false stories, false whatever. It just, I don't know. Different topic. But going through and seeing the different suggestions of what other people think indigo is, and what homeopathic practitioners and there has been one doctor that I've found that has actually said that there is such a thing as indigo children, and that they're just taking everybody as ADD and ADHD and classify them as that. But they could truly be indigo. Last week on Dolly's show, I mentioned that it's a possibility that the children who are so hyperactive are just leaning because they've got so much energy coursing through them that it's unable to be put anywhere else. So looking back as a child, I was everywhere. I was bouncing off the walls. I didn't have sugar, coffee, anything. My mom will tell stories of when I was a 2-year-old. I'd be running around the house. I would lean against the couch for 2 seconds, and then I was gone for another 8 hours. That wasn't because of nonstop energy. I was resting for that 2 seconds, and then I was back off. Because the energy from other things that I was feeling. And other things being everything. Everything gave me energy. I feel so differently as an adult than I did as a child because I'm now starting to accept my gifts. I'm accepting beings. I'm accepting dreams. I'm accepting feelings that I get about certain things. If I get a vibe about somebody, that vibe is always spot on. You can't change my mind because I guarantee you it's going to happen on whatever I say is going to happen. And it's not because I'm trying to be difficult. It's because I feel that I'm very authentic to myself and authentic to everything that is going on. I don't put on a social mask for people, excuse me. I am who I am. I'm Emily. I've always been Emily. I've been loud. I've been obnoxious. I can be very cranky. I do apologize if I get out of hand. I have learned that sometimes it's completely unneeded. But I also feel like I have to find other indigos. You know, I have to find where they are, who they are, because I can find that they are actually the people that I get along with the best. And I think that's why I was so attracted to my husband when I first met him. Because I knew deep down there was a connection that was far deeper than anything that we've had in any other relationship, either of us. And it was hard for him to fall in love with me. Because he had been in a really rough situation as a child and exes and whatever. But there had never been a waiver on my side. And he told me when he asked my father for my hand in marriage, my dad said to him, she's going to be ridiculously nasty sometimes. But if there was ever to have anybody in your corner, you want her in your corner. She is full-heartedly yours. She loves you unconditionally. And it's something that's so intense you've probably not experienced this before. And he was right. And Glenn told me that, my husband, when, we were going over the details after I finally got my ring. And I said, well, unfortunately, at this point in time, you can't back out. So, and Dad gave you the disclaimer, even when you started dating me, that things can get a little hectic sometimes. But indigos tend to hang to indigos, and their love is deeper, and it's such an intense love. And it's not just
a marital love either. There are some of my friends are absolute indigos, and it's just a matter of getting them to see it. And my love for them is very deep. We express deeper. We do things on a different spiritual level, emotional level, physical level than a lot of people do. And I feel like it's a lot of fun as an indigo, because I have let go the pressures of society and become something that I am actually very, very proud of. My energy, I'm very genuine. I have a lot of capabilities in everything I do. And I always try to do what is right. And I stick by my decision. And I don't flip-flop on issues. I don't, claim anything that I'm not. But when people ask me, where do I get my power, my energy, and my creativity from, I simply say it's from my family, from my animals, from everything around me. Because without everybody and everything around me, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'm positive I would still be an indigo child / adult, but it wouldn't be as accepting as I am now. So finding Wolf Spirit Radio and Haggy Shack and Dolly and having my mom and Colleen and Dave and my grandmother coming through all the time has really helped me become a more spiritually awakened person than I think I ever have been. And I can't go to like a normal doctor and say, yeah, I'm just really in a bad depression right now because, the energies are fluctuating. They'd be like, nope, take some Adderall or take some Zoloft or take some this and take some that and you'll be fine in the morning. Nope. That's not how it works. Medication for me is something I can't do. I was on medication last year, and I was on Lexapro and Xanax. I was going through a massive panic attack, couldn't calm myself down, took a Xanax, and guess what? I am allergic to Xanax. Cannot take it. I was hallucinating a fire in my house. So, needless to say, after a trip to the emergency room, I have never taken a Xanax again. Don't plan to either. It's difficult for an indigo child to take medication because it does mess with our being. And as a child, everybody was telling my mom she's got to be on medication. She has to be on Ritalin. And I was on Ritalin, Wellbutrin, Zoloft, all of these different medications to try to quote unquote balance me out. I am not a seesaw. I am either really happy or really depressed. There is no even keel on this. So for the doctors who are prescribing the medication, they're doing what they're doing medically. They're not actually accepting, again, the whole indigo thing. And it's frustrating because my mom was trying to do the best by me, and what she thought of at the time was the best is what the doctors were saying. Looking back, we both agreed that, if we knew what we knew now, if we knew what we know now, then it wouldn't have happened. Because there's not been a lot of information on indigo children and how their energy is channeled into love, intense focus, personal growth, spirituality, all these intense feelings. And something sad with it is they can get addicted to things super quickly. Thankfully, my addiction is only horses. But on the downside, it also makes me extremely broke on a very regular basis. So there are certain addictions that can be life-altering. There are certain addictions that can be mood-altering. Whatever the case is, it's hard to take the energy that we have coming through. And actually go through a day-to-day situation with it. So when leaning towards the whole psychic realm and the woo-woo stuff, as Annette calls it, it's almost like you finally are that square peg that's fitting in the square hole and not in the round hole that they want you in. And you can finally become yourself and allow yourself to be better and more profound. And you grow so exponentially in the time that you were with this kind of atmosphere. There has never been a time that I have been on Wolf Spirit Radio or Haggy Shack that has told me I can't be whatever I wanted to be. They support you. They help you. They get you to grow. It's amazing. I mean, every time I was a child and I would get out of sorts and just get really frustrated, I know seeing the third eye on the whole thing. I don't know how I didn't at that point know something was very different with me and it needed to be addressed. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I finally accepted my mom saying, "You dumb kid, you're a freaking indigo child. Can you just take the information and go?" She's like, "I can't fight you with this anymore." And it was always a fight. Always a fight. But again, we have our intuition, our love, our abilities, Another part about being indigo, which drives me insane, is being sensitive. Because I could be the toughest person in the world, but if I watch a movie with an animal that dies, I am in the ball of the fetal position, crying hysterically, whimpering, and I make an ugly cry face. Let me tell you, it is absolutely horrendous. But I go from really, really excited and something can just set me off and I start crying. The other day, I finally rode my horse Dakota for the first time in 3 months. I was crying on my way home talking about it because we had come so far and done so much. And I was finally starting to get him to feel better and get him working properly. And I just broke out into a disgusting mess of crying. My husband now just hands me a tissue and goes about his way because it does happen quite a bit. It's not, I wouldn't say it's sad. It's a feeling of being sad. I think it's more about being so charged from the atmosphere that our body literally has no other way to release it other than crying, which is difficult because if you're in a social setting, you don't want to be that person crying and laughing in the corner because they're going to look at you a little weird. But if it's something you have to do because you are so energized with energy and you want to go and go and go, it's hard to pull yourself back and not be emotional. I feel so much. And it's hard not to tell people that because I don't want to hide who I am. I don't want to be Jane Doe and go about my business and just be, the loner in a corporate setting. I want to be myself. I want to be loud. I want to be energetic and happy and everything else that I can be and reach for the stars. Fully reach for the stars. And as indigos, we can do that. We have this great sense that if we say we are going to do something, guess what? We do it. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's like light is shining through the clouds when we finally get something. And it's fantastic. Because we have really strong connections in our lives because of our energy, because of everything that we have going on. A lot of indigos have a connection with animals and children. I wouldn't necessarily say I've got a really good connection with kids because kids kind of piss me off. I'm not going to lie. They can be very frustrating, especially if they're not my kids because I can't backhand them. But animals, on the other hand, for those of you who don't know, I have 2 horses, 3 cats, 4 dogs, and a husband. So I have a very large group of animals that I have to try to train and work with and handle on a regular basis. Now, the husband cannot be trained or handled without supervision, so we kind of let him do what he needs to do in his own way. But Dakota is my actual first horse, my own personal horse. Waited 29 and a half years to get my own personal horse, and it finally happened, and it was Dakota. But Dakota's a very different horse. Like, it's very different. He picked me. There was never a time where I was like, hey, that's a good looking horse. I'm going to go ride him. Absolutely not. About 2 years ago, we moved my parents' horse Pizza to the barn that I started riding at. And I was out there, I was walking to go see Pizza, see how she was doing. And Dakota, who I didn't know at the time, never met him, never talked to him, never pet him, nothing, came right up to me at the fence. And as soon as he came up, I felt like he was just the horse for me. And I kind of put it back and just said, I can't really afford a horse right now. I can't really do anything. And about a year and a half later, I was at the barn and I said to my barn manager, I said, Joan, I'm really broke right now. I need saddle time. I can't be riding Pizza right now because it's just not right for her. And she gave me a list of horses that needed help. And then I said, oh, Dakota's in that list. Well, who's Dakota? And she showed me this little bay horse sitting out in the back pasture. She's like, well, he really needs the help and the work because I'm trying to sell him and nobody wants to buy him. He's had 11 owners in 11 years. I can't keep him because he's not for a lesson horse. Well, sure enough, I got on his back and absolutely fell in love with him. And for a while, I was telling myself, no, Emily, we have to try to sell him. It's for Joan. You can't really afford a horse right now. A big deal came through at work, and I told my husband, I was like, I want Dakota. I want to buy him. I said, he needs to be with me. Because we had built this bond, this relationship that is difficult to explain because he whinnies for me every single morning when I get to work. The second he calls me, I go over and I give him a kiss and I tell him he's a handsome boy and I pet him. And every day I work with him. And every day our bond gets so much stronger. My dogs are the same way. I mean, we're supposed to foster 2 of our 4 dogs. But Evie, my oldest dog, came to me when I was living by myself in Tennessee. I hated life. Everything was horrible. It was a bad situation. So my roommate showed me this dog, ended up getting her, and she ended up being my companion. We don't think of Evie as a dog because she's not. She's 15 pounds Pekingese, an attitude for miles, anger issues for miles, and if they say dogs aren't spiteful, they haven't met her. She's really spiteful. So she was there for a lot of times that I was lonely. Met my husband, only had Evie until about 3 years ago when we moved into our house after we got married. My husband and I were driving past a Petco, and I was like, oh crap, I need to stop in and get dog food for Evie.
and they were having an adoption adoption event outside, and I said, okay, we can't go today. Because I'm going to go, and I'm going to want a dog, and I'm going to be depressed that I can't have a dog. Because in my life, I want to save every single animal, all the time, any situation. I don't care if it's a chinchilla, I don't care if it's an elephant or a fox. If I can keep it in my house, I want it. It's just how it is. Granted, my husband has threatened me with divorce if I bring home with another animal, but he doesn't necessarily know that we're going to be getting animals soon. So, with Evie, she was great as an only dog, but she truly did want to be part of a pack. So, we go through the adoption event because his idea is, we're just going to look. Wink, wink. We came home with Tardis. He's an Australian Shepherd mix. He's a great dog. We call him the smartest yet dumbest dog we've ever met because he does some really intelligent things, and in the same sentence, he does something stupid, and we have to do nothing but laugh at him. The next dog we got was Fritz. He was an older dog when we got him. He was 3 or 4 years old when we got him. He was extremely malnourished. We got an email about a week before Thanksgiving 3 years ago, and they said this dog was going to be put down. And of course, my heart was melting for these animals because Thanksgiving is a very emotional time for me. Thanksgiving was always my favorite holiday with my grandmother because we went to her house, we had this huge dinner, we had a party, we had all this kind of stuff, and it truly did make that holiday very special for me. So I was already emotional because it's been 10 years since my grandmother had passed. Well, 10 years this year, but 7 years at the time. And I said to Glenn, can we foster a dog? I'd really like to help somebody out. Well, we got this dog named Lucky, and she was just way too dominant in this house, and it just couldn't work out. So we ended up getting Fritz, and Fritz literally just fell in love with us, and I fell in love with Fritz. The second he came into my house, we called him Dobby because he looked like Dobby from Harry Potter, because of how malnourished he was and all that kind of stuff. So that was our first foster failure. The last one, thankfully, not thankfully the last one, but the last dog we got was a year ago, and her name was Bug. And she's a little beagle corgi mix who is just downright adorable. And the second they opened up the door in the transport van, I looked at the woman, Vicky, who runs the dog adoption place that we have. And I looked at her, I was like, Vicky, she's not coming back. I was like, you might as well just give me the paperwork now because she's going to come home and it's going to be done. So I get this dog. She's sitting in the front seat of the car. I take a picture before I leave the parking lot and I send it to my husband. And he's like, oh my God, she is cute. I didn't say anything to Bug. I was like, oh, you're such a good girl. We're going to find you a really good home. Little did she know, in my head, I was like, nope, you're going to stay here. That's it. So Bug came here and started to love on my husband, and at that point, he's like, yeah, she's not leaving. She's going to be ours. So it only lends itself to say that indigos have this incredible way of connecting to animals. Because every single animal we have in our house has a very strong connection to either one of us. Evie and Fritz are very much my dogs. Fritz will protect me if we go to the dog park and a dog knocks into me. He's very protective over me when we'll go for walks. Evie is also very protective of me. A trait of the Pekingese is they're guard dogs. They come from China. They were royalty animals, and they would actually sit in the, I forget the robe that they wore, the name of them. They would sit and attack somebody if they came too close to the emperor. Well, that's Evie. Unfortunately, she has an underbite, so she can't really do any damage. But the connection that my husband has with Bug and Tardis is phenomenal as well. And we are truly lucky as indigos to have the world that we have here today
because we have information at our fingertips. We have places like Wolf Spirit Radio and Haggy Shack, and we have everything that we need to thrive because we love information. We are like walking dictionaries. And every time I get more information, I feel so satisfied. Every time something happens with the horses at the barn, I feel so satisfied. And I feel like it just gets better and better and better. And now that there is a place and my own radio show, guys, I have my own radio show. This is exciting. All week I've been talking to Colleen and Nancy and my mom. For those of you who don't know, by the way, mom is Vanessa. Every time something would happen, every day, even this morning, my mom texted me and she's like, oh my God, she's like, it's today, it's coming today. She's like, I can't wait. I couldn't wait either. I was really excited to share with you guys. We're Indigos. We have something to be incredibly proud of because we have that third eye. We can see the energy. We could feel the energy. We could do whatever we want and still be as bright as a star. And I just feel like it's been such a journey to this point where I have finally acknowledged myself and acknowledged everything that I've done as an indigo. And just realize that you can't take society's pressure. You can't take what people say to you for hard on truth, like a doctor says, I have ADD and ADHD. Yeah, doc, I'm sure you think I do. But there is a higher purpose for me. I am meant for something more. I am meant to be bigger and better than anything anybody has. And I hope if anybody is listening to this tonight, please know if you are indigo and you identify as an indigo, you should see that you have so much in front of you, so much information, so much knowledge, so many people to support you. And be real and be accepting and everything you can do. I pray for everybody, prayers and jingles, everyone, that we are here and we have our show. And I believe we are at the top of the hour. So my show is now over. I thank all of you for coming and talking and enjoying. I truly love this. I'm so excited to be your host for Up Crossers Creek. Again, I am Emily Norcross, and I appreciate everything everybody has done. And Colleen, you are wonderful as always.